Nora?
All right, Jeff, thank you. Former NTSB Chair Deborah Hersman is with us. She is now President and CEO of the National Safety Council. Good morning, Deborah.
Good morning.
You know, you think about this, Southeast Asia has been dealing with 3 airline catastrophes in the past year. What do you think happened here?
You know, I'd say this is incredibly unprecedented to see 3 aircraft losses coming from the same part of the world. But I think in this case, it's a very different situation, and investigators are going to be looking closely at that flight track, the last communications, and really trying to target that debris field and the recorders.
What about the issue of severe weather? Could that have caused a plane this size to come down?
You know, typically we don't see large commercial aircraft being taken down by severe weather. It is a factor when you talk about smaller aircraft going into thunderstorms, in-flight breakups are a possibility, but we don't usually see that with commercial, large transport category aircraft.
There is some discussion of ice accumulation, which can potentially interfere with the airspeed indicators, these pitot tubes, which is what happened with Air France in 2009. That, based on what we know about what the pilots said and the area where they're in, would seem like one theory here.
Sure. I think that investigators are going to be looking at every theory, and certainly Air France 447 showed us that there could be a malfunction as far as these pitot tubes icing over and not getting reliable airspeed indications back into the cockpit. But one of the challenges here is not just the equipment, but it's how the pilots in the aircraft are responding to any equipment failures or anomalies, and they're going to be looking at that very closely.
You mentioned that, and the sad reality is we've had a series of high-profile aviation disasters, and we've all now heard about these distress signals. Do this case, were the pilots even able to send an alert that something wrong was happening?
So far, the information that we've heard from the authorities on the ground is that they asked for clearance to a higher altitude. There wasn't any distress signal that was sent that's been reported at this point. But I will tell you, for pilots, they have responsibilities, and they are aviate, navigate, and communicate. And communication in an emergency is really the last thing they're focusing on. They've got to handle that airplane and make sure that that is their first priority. And so it's not necessarily a surprise if you're in an emergency that they're not actually narrating play-by-play what's happening over air traffic.
Deborah, I guess one of the questions I have, too, is how does a flight like this just disappear from the radar? I mean, how does that happen, and what kind of changes is the airline industry making to better transmit data?
I will say that this is one of the biggest issues today is after the disappearance of MH370 is why we don't have better tracking of aircraft in these dead spaces.
Deborah Hersman, so many thoughts and prayers with those family members. Thank you so much. Well, the search for Flight 8501 is raising ominous comparisons to the